your fiscal year ends. If you have a September 30th, of course, you're probably already past some of those hurdles or still in the throes of it. And those of you that have December 31st, you're gearing up for that time of year. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and we'll talk through some of the basics that we can actually get started ahead of time. And so inside of Unanet, one of those really simple ones that you can actually turn on now or once you know that is if you have any expense codes that have a unit rate that change. So a common one is mileage. So if you follow the IRS guidelines, of course, they have not released them yet for 2026, but that's one of those rates that you'll have to update for the next fiscal year. And so one of those quick ways of doing that, instead of going to project administration and going to your expense code and expense groups and updating them individually, is under utilities and custom reports. If you search for the word change or the word mileage, there is a change mileage rate action in the system, which is going to simplify that process for you. So if we double click that, it will load here in that right-hand panel. And if I do preview report, it's going to ask me for what that new rate is. And I'll just pretend that we've got our 2026 mileage rate from the IRS. And I'm just going to change that date real quick here. And I'm going to find my mileage code, expense code. So hopefully I can find that here pretty quickly. And I can also set a new markup, set the markup to the new rate, or I can leave it be the unit rate. So when I click complete, it is going to create a 2026 schedule in my expense groups for this new mileage rate of 72 cents. So if I click complete and I come, it tells me that it did 5 expense groups. So if I come back to project administration and expense groups, this architectural one, I now have a 2026 start date. It automatically ended that end date. And my mileage rate is now that 72 cents per mile. So this just saves time of not having to go to each of these schedules that I have in my expense groups and manually creating that period year and adding that rate. Again, if you have any other expense codes that have a unit rate, you can still use that change mileage rate. You're just going to select that appropriate, whoops, let me hit preview, not that. You would just select that appropriate mileage code or expense code here and do that same process. So one of the simple things you can check off the box as soon as you know what those new rates are for the next fiscal year. Okay. One of the next key areas, of course, that affects your next year is your bill rate schedules. So one of the things I would suggest doing, again, I'm going to stay in this utilities and custom reports. If we look at, if we type in the word rate, there are 2 reports out here that are system-based. One is rate schedule assignments and rate schedule details. So if I look at rate schedule assignments, so just a quick double click and I do a preview, it asks me what effective active date do I want to look at. So I may want to look at what's currently going on for 2025, what rate schedule type I want to look at, and if it's assigned to active projects, I could do both. But again, probably just going to focus on my active. And if I do print, this is going to tell me all of those rate schedules in the system that are actively being used with a 2025 rate. So I've got bill rate by employee, bill rate for planning, you know, so on and so on. And again, my largest one is standard bill rates. So that may be one I really want to focus in on getting things updated for 2026. So I'm going to focus in on that standard bill rate, but I can print this off and make sure I tackle all of these current active rate schedules if we need to make modifications for a new fiscal year. So from there, I'm going to look at that rate schedule detail report. And again, I can pick that report that I selected from that other report, and I want to make sure I'm still looking at that 2025 rates are in there. Again, I get that quick preview of how this schedule is set up and what those rate schedules are. I'm assuming most firms have a process to review their current rates and to come up with new rates for the next fiscal year. So with that, I can now go look at the rate schedules that I need to and make those adjustments. So we're going to look at tweaking this standard bill rate schedule that's currently set with 2025 rates and add a 2026 rate to it. So I'm going to close this report, but those are just two key reports I like to start with before I start this process. So under project administration again, I'm headed off to rate schedules, and I'm going to find my standard bill rates. Again, there are, the different types down here. So again, if you've come in here, you may have to swap that to the type of schedule. So my standard bill rate schedule for 2025 has loaded, and I can quickly come up here and say add period. We can start that new 2026 schedule. So it's basically copied all my rates from 2025 into this schedule. And so if I now export this one, so if I click export and I say save, I can now, and of course it opens up on my second screen, I can now make the changes to this schedule that I need to for 2026 and import it back into the system. So I don't have to go into, again, luckily this one only has 11 lines, but you may have a rate schedule that has 20 lines, depending on how many job codes you have, or if it's employee based. So I can come in, the two key columns that I want to make sure I look at are my flat rate regular and my flat rate premium. So again, if you're able to charge a premium for overtime to your client for a bill rate, we would make those adjustments. So I would come in here, make those changes. So maybe if I'm just going to do a couple here. But that way there, I have my spreadsheet. I've got it maintained. I can keep a copy of that on my server, knowing that I took care of that. I'm going to hit save. And then you can come in and back into Unanet and use that import schedule. So it always tells you to do a little backup, but we did that. If you notice when you do the import, it brings in the schedule name and what period you're going to be updating. So I'm going to be doing that one I think saved as a CSV. So I'm going to use a comma. I like to use the headers to make sure I know what column I'm selecting. And I'm going to go back out and find my schedule. I saved it on my desktop. You may save it in a folder structure somewhere. And I'm going to click next. Everyone asked about custom query. If you know SQL and can write queries yourself, you could use this custom query tab here. But since we're using that CSV file, we're going to click next again. If it responds here for me. Oh, I have it open, that's why. If you get that error message, I'm going to leave that go there. We'll give it a second here to pop back up. It just means that you have the file open. So sometimes when you're in this import area, it doesn't like it when you have that Excel file, CSV file open. So just close your file, click OK, click next again, and it'll take you to the mapping. So it's kind of good that that happened so I could show those. All of these columns will exist in your CSV file. Do pay attention that there's no default value if you map in specific fields. So if you're mapping them in, job title, job code, you want to make sure that there's nothing in the default value to give a error on you. Since this one was job title based, I don't have to map the employee code and name if I don't want to save some time. Again, just be consistent on how you're doing that. But I would just map out all of those fields. And in essence of time, I'm just going to do the basics here. Flat rate reg, flat rate premium. This one here, I would definitely use the use flat rate item. I've imported and not imported that field, and then I got an error when I went to do bill rates. So that is one I definitely would suggest that you make sure you map. Again, we could map everything, just again, in essence of time. And then of course, too, if you have something in red, it is a required field. Okay. So if I had mapped everything out, when I click next, it's going to bring those items in. It's going to show you my job title and code, which we mapped. We left those default fields there. We're in US dollars. We're using a flat rate. And my rates came in from my schedule. When I'm importing, I always like to test. So up on your top menu, I like to do the test import. And it'll give you any errors if there are any. And if not, and just recall, I changed these top two values. So we changed accountant 2 and architect 1. I'm going to go ahead and import those. And with that, when I click finish, that has now brought in all of those new rates. I'm not going to save that file. I'm going to, oh, it wants to keep giving me. And now if you notice, my top two job titles have those new rates of 210 and 310. If I had updated the others, those would have updated as well. So now I'm ready. Those projects that had that standard bill schedule assigned to them, as soon as January 1st rolls around and there's a time charge to it, those new flat rates will come in as my bill rates. So again, you would want to update any of those rate schedules that need an update for the next fiscal year. You could also do that if they are multiplier based. You could do something very similar. Let's see if we have. I think most of these are by flat rate. I don't think I have a rate. If by chance we had one that was that had the DP overhead and profit, kind of same process, you may just have a single line item. So those might just be as easy to fix manually. So we'll just create one real quick for January of this year. So if I can charge 1.7, overhead of 1.6, profit of 1.1. So if we were just to, if that's all my rate schedule has, it may not be worth doing the export and re-import. I could just do the add new period for 2026. And then do the quick modification to what those numbers need to be. Oops. Helps if you don't miss a decimal point. So some of them, if they're very simple, it may just be as quick to update those. Okay. Any questions so far on bill rate schedules? And I know we went through the import-export process pretty quick, but I do want to cover a lot of different areas. So if there are none, not sure how many of you use job cost schedules and use like a multiplier for job cost. So if by chance you do that, you would also want to do a very similar process to your job cost schedules. if you know you're going to have a rate increase for 2026. There may be some firms that actually calculate their overhead rate for the current year when it's done, and then do a true up and true up all their job costs. So that would be something you would probably do during your year-end processing. Right? So now that I've kind of got my expense codes done, bill rates ready, possible job cost schedules ready, now I kind of want to focus in on, hey, I got to gear up for year end and all of those processes. One of the things I would suggest doing is doing a review of your balance sheet items, especially those like not so much accounts receivable, but like prepaid expenses, um, fixed assets, any accruals you might do. Make sure that those all tie out. Again, if you're doing that now in November, you just have transactions in December that need to be added, and you have those kind of checked off before you even get to, January 1st or the end of December. And then I would also suggest doing a review of your expenses, making sure things are allocated correctly. Did something hit a miscellaneous expense account rather than, um, you know, office rent expense or something of that nature? Was a wrong GL account used? One of the tools that I like for those types of things is actually a dashboard. So on dashboards, there are a couple classic ones where you can make a trial balance dashboard. And if you don't have these already set up, it's a pretty easy thing to do in your dashboard groups. But it needs the two components, the summary and the detail. And once I do this little refresh icon, I can look at my fiscal year or month. I know I have pretty good data for 2024 in this database, and I can go through and come down to my, accumulated depreciation for vehicles and make sure that I have all of my entries done for 2024. So again, instead of having to run reports, this is a great little tool that allows you to do that review kind of on screen. And then, of course, if there is an issue, that's when a report may be a great one to run. I may want to run a detailed general ledger to get, more of maybe a hands-on copy. Although you can still do that Control-Shift-E export that would bring a grid out to Excel. So again, those keyboard shortcut keys will work in here. So again, if I did Control-Shift-E, that would bring that data out there. And I could then do what I needed to do, reviewing that fixed asset or depreciation for that fixed asset. So those are some of those things that you can kind of do up front. We can see like, October and November's depreciation hasn't been run. So again, those little quick things that you can do ahead of time before you get to year end. Questions on the trial balance dashboard? Okay. The next one's a pretty simple one as well. I'm just going to come out to general accounting and my accounting periods, and I'm going to open up 2026. I know it's only November, but as long as the periods aren't open, I can start that new fiscal year. And now all of that is done. I can check that off the list and move forward. When January rolls around, I can just open that month and start processing. Okay. I'm going to open up the end of year checklist. If you've attended sessions that I've done previously on this, you're aware that this is on our OAS website under resources. So you can download this document and use it as part of your year-end close. So these are just those things that we suggest that you walk through and make sure that you have done for your organization. You could also use this as a planning tool to make sure and schedule out these things. So if you want to schedule out when you want to have things completed by, I would also use this. I know back when I had to do year-end process, I used to always take my checklist, kind of have a date, maybe actually who was even doing it kind of off to the side. So you could use this as your planning tool to coordinate when and who are going to do any of these processes, as well as coordinating with any outside accounting firms or tax accountants for those things that they need as well. Okay, so this kind of walks through all of the different things that should happen probably there in January if you're at 12/31 close. And then, of course, to any miscellaneous items and your post-closing. So after you get those tax returns and any adjusting entry from any outside accounting firms. Of course, too, during all of this, you're going to make sure to run your 1099s as well. And of course, open up your benefit accrual. So those kind of fall under those miscellaneous things. So they happen there in the beginning part of January. So with that, I know I didn't run through all of these items specifically. If there's any that you would like me to go over, I can. But I wanted to make sure everybody had a good basis of prepping for their year-end close. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
One question. I don't know if it's a question. We have some people interested in that trial balance dashboard.
Sure. I can walk through and show you guys how to set that up. I'll reshare my screen. Okay. I'll head back into Unanet. Okay. So under your utilities, you have your dashboard groups. And again, this might be an accounting dashboard group that needs this item. So you're going to want to come over to you want to make sure you have Gridgets available here checked. And then in Gridgets, if I can find them, you'll find trial balance detail, and you'll check the box for that, as well as trial balance summary. So you'll just check those two boxes and hit save. And then you're going to go to configure dashboards. And you may probably want a new one. So I'm going to do a plus, and I'm going to call this my, trial balance. And I know we have this out here, so I'm going to just put my initials after it so it creates a custom one. And then this is a classic dashboard. And I'm going to say create. So now I have my dashboard name. Nothing's in that container yet. So I'm going to do this plus sign here. And again, those are Gridgets. So I'm going to click on Gridget and say add. And it gives me my first Gridget. And then what Gridget do I want to apply? Either of the two. Trial balance detail. Hit save. I'm going to do that same plus sign again. And do that same process again. But this time I'm going to add that summary and save. I can save and close. I just wanted you to see that it adds both of those two Gridgets to the dashboard. I'm going to save and close, and hopefully I have access to this dashboard group. I think I do, based upon, nope, I do not. We'll just quickly add that. Hopefully you've all have gone through or have seen the new dashboard groups. So once I have my items configured, I can come to my dashboard. And I'm going to switch to accounting because in accounting, I have that trial balance one. So I'll want to find that on my listing. And when you load it the first time, those two grids are stacked on top of each other. So I'm just going to drag them down, and then in this gray area, I can stretch them out depending on how large I want them to be. And then of course too, if I want to run it, I just click on the little refresh gear and voila, my dashboard for my trial balance is there. Okay. Hopefully that's pretty straightforward.
Another question. Elizabeth's asking, did I see that there was a year-end closing utility for doing the accounting closing entries?
There is, so that is on that checklist. Yep, so once you're done, under utilities, there's an end of year closing. And this will make those journal entries to close out your revenue and expenses to retained earnings. So it's just a little, sorry, I'm just trying to get it to where, let me maybe close, let me close these. So it's a blank screen that you're looking at. So you just select what fiscal year you need to close, what retained earning accounts you want it to go to, what set of books, accrual or cash. If you have org units and you need to close them individually, you can select your org units as well. And you just click close year. Oh, I must have multi-company turned on in here. But then it will create those journal entries. Let's see if it created one for me. Nope. Let's try that again then. Okay. If you're multi-company, of course, you'll have to close each company one at a time. So let's see that. Okay, once that is done, you will have a journal entry that does that, closing your revenue and expense to the to your retained earnings. And of course, this is flagged as a closing entry. If you have financial statement designers done, those will either you look at the type to see to include or not include the closing entries. Okay.
Awesome.
Was there a question on benefit accrual? I'm seeing in the chat.
Really quickly on the year-end closing entries, do they
Uh-huh.
post automatic? Do they post automatically? I don't see a post button.
When you click the close year, that's that post button.
Okay. And if we needed to, we could delete them.
You could delete them and rerun it. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Also, you could, when in January, you kind of run your year-end close, so that way, you know, you'll run your January financials and all of it will look appropriately. If you get adjusting entries from your tax accountant to record your tax liability for the fiscal year, you can journal that journal entry and then run end of year close again. You don't have to delete this one. You could have two of them in the system.
Okay, great. So what I'm hearing is it will take the incremental change.
Correct. Yep.
I'm going to share my screen, Tammy, just to show everybody where the checklist can be found on the website.
Okay. Um, Perfect.
Let me just... can you see that, Tammy?
I can see that you're on the web page. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So if you go here to resources on our website and software tips and helpful resources, if you scroll down through here, there's a few resources in here. Here's a keyboard shortcut list, but just above it here is the year-end process checklist. If you click here where it says, it'll pull up the checklist and you can download it and save it. So that's one way to get it. And then also new on the website is this custom tools tab. If you click on it, there is a list of custom dashboards and custom tools that we have developed over the years. And the first one is tips and tricks, which is a custom dashboard. And in there, if you were to work with us to get this loaded onto your system, it would have the keyboard shortcut list. It has a daily checklist, a weekly checklist, the year-end closing checklist, and everything built into a dashboard. So we could, if you're interested in that, you can let us know and we can help you get that set up on your system. All of these tools we do free of charge, except for the time it takes to install it and cut any customization or something like that. So the hours that it takes that we bill for, but as far as the tool goes and all the development costs and everything associated with that is free if you'd like to use any of these. So feel free to browse through here. There's a bunch. Again, the first one, tips and tricks, is where all the checklists and things live for a dashboard for your system. So you can either download it in the resources or we can do a dashboard like that as well. But again, just a lot of different tools in here if you're interested in browsing that in our website. And if you have any question about any of that, just send me an email and I can walk you through it. We can give you some idea of pricing as far as hours go to set up some of those tools and things like that too. All right. Any other questions on?
Yeah, I saw one that said audit trail on there, and I know there's already an existing audit trail in OAS. How would that be different? Is there a description of the difference as to what's built in versus what you've built, OAS has built?
Does anybody from OAS know the difference?
So my understanding, someone else can jump in if they know more, but it's a transactional audit trail, can be a transactional audit trail. The audit trail in the system is just going to, um, show you what, like if you're looking at a sales journal, you can look at the audit trail if it's been changed. Um, but this can, kind of put it all in one place. Also, it can give you an audit trail for changes in the master file. So if someone made a change to a contract value in a project, it can tell you who did that and when. It can really be set up though with, to track anything that you want it to track. Our programmers, now that they have this capability, can modify it based on things that you would be interested in seeing more detail about, as opposed to just what's standard within the system.
That sounds great. I did feel like there was a deficiency in the audit trail. I'm used to running a reports for a certain amount of time and seeing what's changed, who's updated what, all in one spot. So I'm definitely interested in that. Does it also update or provide an audit trail for any global settings that have been changed?
Um, I'm sure that it could. I don't know if the one that's pre-built would do that. I don't see anything like in this print screen that says global settings. But I would think that it could be.
Thank you.
All right. So again, and if you click on any of these little headings, it drops down kind of a snippet with a little more information, as well as a little description just above it. So you can get a little more information, but it doesn't go into super detail. So again, you can email me and we can get more information from the programmers here at OAS. And then a lot of these can be, like Mary mentioned, can be customized. So this is a good starting point, and then it can be customized based on how you want to use some of these as well. But mainly just wanted to show that tips and tricks one, but there's a lot of resources in there if you want to check it out. All right. Any other questions? And it doesn't have to be particularly on year-end close. Any struggles or questions, please feel free. You can just come off mute or you can put them in the chat as well. We have a few more minutes. Jessica she would like more info on the benefit accrual steps. Okay.
Sure. But that actually is going to fall pretty much just like you do your normal benefit accruals. It's just going to be that first one that you run for the year. It will do any carry forward limitations that you have and make that adjustment. So, like if an employee has 200 hours remaining and your carryover limit is only 100, it will do that automatic reduction and then start that new accrual process for the year and start that new benefit year. So not a whole lot except running it right there on your normal cadence for benefit accruals. It'll automatically flip over to that new benefit year. Always good to review your balances probably before you run that first accrual, but it should be pretty straightforward as your normal monthly, weekly, however you normally run them. Does that help, Jessica?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the question. Any other questions? Right. Well, I don't see any hands and I don't see anything typed in.
Tim, I don't know if you want to, when you send out the link to this recording, if you can put the link in for the prior session, because that one was very detailed for all of the different steps.
Oh, good idea. Okay.
Okay.
I do
So
have that. Yep.
if you want to see more detail, the session we did a little earlier this year on year-end processing, that would be a great resource for you as well.
Perfect. I'll include that when I send the recording of today as well. Thanks, Tammy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if there's no more questions or anything, let me just share my screen quickly just to go over what's next.
Tim, before you do that,
Yeah.
it looks like there is another
Oh.
question.
Hey there. I'm sorry. Yes, it's
No,
Brenna.
no, please.
This is our first year end in Unanet. We've only been live since June 1st. We have not closed out our income statement before, but is there anything? I saw the rate schedule changes and updates. Is there anything in billing that needs to happen? It just flows like another month end?
Uh, I mean, I would say yes, with the exception of course, kind of review. I mean, you would want to review your projects at year end, making sure, any of your billings for 2025 are captured. I don't know, do you do any type of work in process recording?
We do. We have WIP and, yeah, yeah. And, my background is widgets, not selling time for an A&E firm. So this is all new to me and just wondering if I hear you on reviewing projects, making sure things are billed for 2025, but no other buttons or settings in billing that needs to happen.
No, once you switch over, your new fiscal year, you're going to set your new invoicing period in the accounting periods as well. That's the extent of switching from one year to the next.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
It seems
if you've
easy
worked
enough.
in I know other systems require like you have to do A before you can do B. United's
Yes.
not quite as restrictive.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Yeah, that is what I am used to is you have to do several setup steps before we open the new year. So,
Yeah. Yeah, the biggest thing I recall from my past experience in different software was, especially on the accounts payable side, you had to make sure all of your checks were issued before you could initiate that fiscal year for check processing and all of that and 1099s. Unanet is a little bit more flexible in that way.
okay. And will you have a 1099 lunch and learn?
I'm sure we could add it to the list.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, so the other thing is too, that OAS offers a service to our clients, to do their 1099s for them if anyone is interested in that. Ever since they are requiring electronic filing and that sort of thing. We don't even utilize, or I guess, what am I trying to say? We use a third-party service that we pay for, and then, we just pass on the costs of the processing, because they charge per 1099 after that. And then we can export the file from Unanet and just import it there. But that way, people aren't having to think too hard or work too hard to get their 1099s out. So anybody that's interested in that can reach out as well.
Awesome. I'll get you more information, Brenna, on that as well. I've made a note. All right. Yeah. And in regards, oh, sorry, go for it.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
this is a separate question, not related to year end. Do you have recordings on fully utilizing project planning?
We do have a series on project planning.
Okay,
It's I think it's 3 or 4 recordings or sessions that we did. Each one focusing on a little bit different aspect of it. So I can send those over to you, Tim.
that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yep, I'll make a note. Anyone else? Questions or anything like that? I'll send it to you as well, Mike.
Thank you.
When I send the recording too, I'll send a list of recordings or sessions that we've done in the past. This past year, we're coming up on a year of doing these lunch and learns. So if you see one that you'd like the recording of, it's a little bit difficult to send all the recordings. It's a lot to send in one email, but if you just reply back and let me know which one you want to see, I can send them off to you. All right. Anyone else? Again, if we can help at all with any of this, or anything else to do with Unanet or outsourced accounting or anything like that, please reach out to me. We're more than willing to help. And any more information that you need or assistance, we're here to help you do that. By way of what's next, November 24th is our next lunch and learn in a couple of weeks. That we're going to go over the new dashboard release, the 2510 dashboard release functionality. There's some little quirks or nuances in there that would be good to know as you dive into that. So we're going to go over those so that everyone's 100% in using the new release and the new functionality. And then December 8th, we have a client case study focused on empowering PMs with direct entry and analysis in Unanet to gain company-wide efficiencies. So that'll be a good one to watch as well. Again, that's on December 8th. So we welcome everybody back, and we thank everyone for joining today. And thank you, Tammy, for another great presentation. And I will get that information out to everyone that requested it. And have a great rest of your day.